Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 329L string trimmer. The customer complaint is that it just won't stay running. Doesn't want to run right, bogs. It's unusable. Quick look in the fuel tank. I mean, the fuel looks fresh. Didn't really see the filter in there, but I want to do a test run. But before I do the test run, I want to make some initial checks. You know, fresh fuel. Make sure that the cylinder isn't scored. We're going to pull the spark plug out and just take a quick peek inside. And if I can see above the exhaust port that it's clean and shiny, I mean, that's good enough for me willing to make a test run on the machine. We'll get this spark plug torqued back down to spec. Here we go. And then prime it up and see if it'll run. Pull the choke. Okay, that's not so good. I can see why he was complaining. You can't use it like that. Off comes the air filter, which is just a foam block, and that looked fine. I know that the problem is somewhere in the fuel system, and I want to remove the carburetor and take a closer look. Now, there's two long screws that run through the air filter holder and through the carburetor, and then there's a third screw that mounts that holder to the basically to the cylinder. Just in case you drop it, it's not just gonna bend those two bolts that the carb is bolted to. So this throttle cable is a little bit annoying here. I wanted to move that air filter holder out of the way, and it's fighting me. Let's dump the fuel out. It'll give us a chance to look at it a little closer than just a quick look we had in the tank. And it'll also prevent fuel from going everywhere when I pull that carburetor off. I got a clamp on the end of the bench here that I can clamp the trimmer into and kind of hold it in place better. Here, that what I was talking about with that throttle cable on that air filter holder. I just got to get it out of my way. And instead of walking over getting a clamp or something like that, I just hung my scrunch on it. Well, I always check these screws when I pull the carb off of one of these models, because sometimes they get loose and there's sucks air behind there between the cylinder and that insulation block. And I suspect that is the bulk of our problem right there. A major air leak between the cylinder and the, you can call it intake block, insulation wall, carb adapter. Now there's a gasket on the other side of that, and there's a fair chance that the gasket could be damaged. But I've gotten away with just tightening these things down before and not having to worry. During a test run, if it shows signs of running lean, then we'll have to go back and look at that gasket. I was reviewing the video and I realized that I didn't quite explain the loose intake insulator situation the way I should have. Now, the first thing a person would think is that if those screws are loose, that you're going to have a major air leak and the saw is not going to run right. Well, if you listen to when I ran it, it wasn't having a fast idle problem like it was sucking air and running lean. It was running like it was running out of fuel and dying. And that's because not only does that gasket on that insulator seal the flow of air and fuel, but it seals the pulse between the crankcase and the carburetor. So when that insulator becomes loose, the pulse becomes lost at that leak. When you prime the machine and you get fuel up into the carb, it'll run for a minute. The pulse isn't strong enough to run the fuel pump in the carb, and then it dies. So I just wanted to clear that up before we move forward. But I wanted to take a look at the carburetor anyway and see what was going on in here. And look at the micro screen. There's some fuel sitting there. I just want to clean it up a little bit and get rid of the schmutz. Thanks for the t-shirt, Bob. I'm going to get a lot of mileage out of this. So, the micro screen looked good, really. The fuel pump diaphragm looked good. You know, I really believe the problem was just in that loose insulator block. We are going to look at the metering diaphragm, though, and see what that looks like. We remove the primer bulb to expose the metering diaphragm. And, I mean, I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. It is stuck down a little bit. But why wouldn't it be? I mean, that's where it lives. It's been there for all its life. The diaphragm itself, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. I mean, it's got some life left in it. One thing I don't want to do is replace too many pieces and not know what the actual problem was and not learn from this. I mean, if you take a repair and you throw in a coil and a carburetor and a spark plug and a fuel filter at it, which one of those was the answer? You don't know. So are you going to throw those things at every repair you do, or are you going to go one at a time and try something and see what the result is and learn from that? And over the years, that's what I've tried to do, and I kind of continue that philosophy. I don't see anything wrong enough with this carb to do anything with it. We'll reconnect our throttle cable wire, and then we're going to locate the carburetor on the air filter holder. And you got to be careful to get the choke lever in the little slot on the blue choke lever. What did I just say? The lever on the carburetor in the slot on the lever of the blue choke handle. Figure it out. It goes together the way you took it apart. So after I get this thing put together and tightened down, I'm going to run it and see what it does. I'm trying a little something different in this video, and I'm going to add a feature here. I don't know, we'll call it the carbometer, and I'm going to show a graphic of the carburetor adjustment to try and give people a better idea of where we are on that needle adjustment, if we're at peak or rich or lean. Tell me what you think about it in the comments.
Not yet.
But it's in your pile of
Oh.
I don't see it up front, so I thought maybe you had it.
Alright, well, let's look for it.
Thanks for watching. Later.